Hello Victorians, I'm Pelly, Community Manager for Victoria 3, and today we have our release of Update 1.8 and Pivot of Empire. Joining me today is Game Design Lead Lino.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here. Good to see Pivot of Empire being released. It's out right now, so you can buy it and play it if you want. And today we're going to show you through some of the new features that are coming with the 1.8 update and talk a bit about Pivot of Empire in India, of course. Though we're mostly going to focus on the free update stuff because that's where the meat is. And then if you want to dive deeper into the experience of India, then of course the DLC is the right thing for you. Shall we just jump into the game?
Yes, but there's one thing to also say. Later today we'll have a free-to-play starting for the base game. So if you've any got any nice friends who want to actually try it out, maybe you should go and ping them about it.
Yeah, perfect opportunity for sure. All right, so we're gonna open the game, and we can see, of course, I have selected a fitting country with the British East India Company to showcase a lot of the new mechanics that we've worked on, some of the new content also, yeah, so that we can give you a nice little rundown. So one of the things, for example, that we did, if I just, actually, let me just pause for a moment here and open this. It's one of the new, well, actually it's not new, it's a rework of an existing system. So we have the political movements over here, which you can always open on the right in the outliner, and then you can see all the ones that are currently active. At later stages, this list can be quite a bit longer.
Yep.
Or shorter, depending on yeah, how your situation is shaping up. But if I open one, we will see what this movement is all about. So you might remember the movements that we had previously, that were usually quite insistent about one particular issue, like pass a certain law, for example. And now these movements that we have, they are more of like a sticky version of that. They have more of a broader agenda, right?
Yeah, they'll stick around a bit longer and have a bit more thoughts on more than one thing. So you might say, if you look down the bottom at the 3 thoughts they have about slavery, as it turns out, that they kind of want debt slavery, legacy slavery, other versions of that, and they're very, very opposed to slavery being banned.
Yeah, let me actually open a different one, like the utilitarian one, because that is actually an even better example. Because as you can see here, they don't only care about slavery, which they want to abolish actually. They are in favor of getting rid of slavery, or rather they oppose slavery in any form. But they also care about other things, right? They have pro stances, for example, on children's rights, education system, rights of women, and so on. So these political movements can care about a lot of things, depending on what type they are. And they can be very specific, like the pro-slavery one that we saw earlier, right? They only want to make you have slavery enabled, and that is basically their only agenda. And the utilitarian one is a much broader.
Much more broader. But you can also see we've got some for Hindu and for British India supremacist movement, which have slightly different spins on what they want to do.
Yeah, exactly. So there's basically these minority movements exist. They are also represented with the same system. So for example, secessions will also basically be triggered via the same system. It's all quite unified. Anything that could lead to a civil war basically works with this. But yeah, let's stick to the utilitarian as an example, because we can also see a couple of other things, other statistics around these political movements in here. We see, of course, the number of POPs that support it, or rather the support of POPs, which is currently marginal, 3%, and then you can find out where this value is coming from, of course, and we can see here the largest chunk of their support is actually coming from servicemen and officers who have a fairly high support generation, because of course they represent a good chunk of the military, so that's important to keep in mind. Yeah. And we can see their activism, which is basically how mad are they about the things that they care about. and this value will basically influence how easy or hard it is for you to pass certain laws, in particular the ones that they care about, right?
And it can also affect civil wars as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Which is something quite good to mention because that has slightly changed in how 1.8 works.
Yeah, no, for sure, exactly. Like if activism gets to 100%, you can get a revolution. But yeah, in general, so they can be a pain for you, right? If you don't actually approve of what they want to see. But you can also make use of these movements if they are actually aligned with an agenda that you are trying to pass. So for example, the utilitarian one is arguably quite friendly and reformative, quite progressive. So this one you might actually want to strengthen by bolstering the movement, for example.
Oh, that's an odd place for it to be. It used to be on the interest groups, didn't it?
Yeah, strange.
Has it moved?
Right? Yeah, it's weird that I would mention this. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. This is a good point, right? This is a big change. Now you can bolster and suppress movements instead of the interest groups as you did before. So you can see the buttons here have been removed. You cannot bolster or suppress them here anymore, but instead you actually bolster and suppress a movement, which is a broader sense, a broader spectrum of things. And you can also see that we have some pressured interest group from this movement. So this will affect what leader ideology can appear in the interest group that is pressured, for example. So yeah, this is influenced by the political movement, this right here, the chance of appearance of a certain ideology. All right, I think that's about it for the movements. Actually,
go into laws, which are slightly related to this.
Sure.
Because that'd be nice to show off some small change we've done.
Yeah, absolutely. I assume you want to talk about
this.
There
we go. So you've got a nice little indication now of how actually likely it is to move forward or stall. And so it's much easier for you to, at a glance, know without having to tooltip over or like start investigating, will I actually be able to pass this? So is it a good idea for me to do this?
Yeah, exactly. Aaron, our UX designer, has done some nice work on the screen as a whole. It's a lot more compressed, so you can actually, I forgot which one it was. Was it, no, was it the economic? Yeah, exactly. We can actually fit all the laws of the economic system in one screen without having to scroll. And we see a slight scroll bar here. But yeah, so it's all on one screen. And as Pelly just suggested, you can see the chances here. If I hover over this, then you can see there's a 20% chance of proceeding, basically, and then 37% chance of getting stall events. And this, of course, is still influenced by the interest groups, which in turn are influenced by the political movements. Yeah, so you will see all this information at a glance, and you can make some informed decisions about which laws you want to try and pass. Yeah, so there's that for laws. Let's maybe move on to another topic. Another thing that we reworked for the 1.8 update is discrimination. The discrimination system has been changed, and I coined the term acceptance, which is now basically the one value that we care about. So POPs are now, let me actually open this. POPs are now having an acceptance value of 0 to 100, instead of just being discriminated or not being discriminated. So it's no longer like a binary status that you have, but it is a flexible value in this range. And in this panel here, in the society panel, which is new, we can see the basically your society overview. And we can see, for example, we have a group of 400,000 POPs in full acceptance status, which is the highest one. But we also have quite a number, 4.7 million almost, in the cultural erasure status, which is quite bad. You can see the effects of what this does to you here. And then you can also see the full list of POPs that are actually affected by this. In this case, there's a lot of peasants, for example, that are going to be suffering quite bad consequences from this. For example, like minus 30% qualifications, which can be quite painful to deal with. But of course, you can change this by passing more progressive laws, which will make it easier in general for you. Yeah. And that should basically still reflect the old system in a way. The goal was really to kind of like upgrade the system, right? But keep the general dynamics in place as we had them before, because they were working fairly well. Same thing with
primary culture and like shared heritages and
exactly.
Pieces.
We can actually take a look at the citizenship laws in order to find a bit more information on how this is structured, because exactly what you said, it's all true, right? Like we're not basically changing the reasons for why a POP would be accepted or not. And we can see here, for example, under cultural exclusion, there's a general acceptance for all cultures. And then depending on if you share a cultural heritage trait or a cultural non-heritage trait with the primary culture, you will find these other acceptance values. And of course, they are not additive, right? But if, for example, a POP shares a heritage trait, then they have 60 instead of 20. And they don't stack infinitely high, but they will always be capped to 100. And of course, primary cultures, for example, will always be at 100. And then we see a bunch of effects if you hover over here, which is a lot to take in, which is why we kind of split it up, right? Like we, maybe you recall in the first dev diary that I posted on the system, we had this really long tooltip.
It was almost like an Encyclopedia Britannica, like page of like, hey, here's everything coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of split that in two, focused on the main information on this first layer, basically. And then if you want to find out the details, you can go in here and then see all the details, right? Like, for example, like who is allowed to assimilate, what political strength, malus, or bonus do they get, and so on. So yeah, this is basically how the value is calculated of acceptance. And then if we go back to the society panel, here you will find the information, what that basically means and how your society is structured. And we see, for example, the vast majority, of course, as indicated by the size of this bar, is that they are in the open prejudice status. That's 105 million. So most of your POPs are going to be affected by the effects of this status. Yeah, religion, of course, maybe I should mention, of course, also has an effect. We can see here in this case, they all get plus 15 to acceptance. This, of course, is coming from the religious law, which in this case is total separation. So this is quite a friendly one when it comes to acceptance.
If you were state religion, it would only be allowed for your actual
for your state
support.
religion, you will get 25 acceptance. And if you're not following the state religion, you're actually getting a significant malus, right? Like 25 points, that's more than one level. So it's not insignificant for sure. Yeah. So that's basically the change that we did for discrimination, or as we now call it, acceptance. So we kind of flipped it around and made it more positively connotated, basically. Though, of course, like the terms of discriminated will still appear in some places in the game, but I think that's what we did with discrimination.
We could have a look at food security in that. That'd be quite a good one to show.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to tackle first. So, okay, let's talk about food security. In the market tab, market panel, you will see a new tab, which is called the food security. And if we open that, we will see a nice map mode, which is indicating where starvation is happening, which is maybe not the most pleasant thing.
No.
You want to have as little starvation as possible.
Yeah.
Usually, you would be it would need to be a peculiar situation where you would encourage starvation. And then we can also see, we can flip this and show harvest conditions on the map, which currently is only this one. But if I let the game run a bit, maybe I'll put it on speed 5 for a moment, and we should see more appear.
Start to appear. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So we are not scripting them at history game setup, but basically they will appear on the map, and then you can find out a lot of information. That's, for example, if we go over here, for example, we have optimal sunlight conditions around Darfur.
Oh, there's a hailstorm actually around in
There's a hailstorm?
British market.
Oh, yeah. Where is it? It's, all right.
So it should be up north.
Up here.
That'd be a nice one to look at too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have these beautiful weather effects for these harvest conditions. That will
you can
also
see it slowly growing too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these pools will basically form here. And then, these weather effects are always present, even if you're not in the opening the map mode. And then in the, if you hover over the actual condition that is happening here, you will, of course, find more information on what that actually means, right? But the effects are, of course, a nice indicator that something is happening.
Yes.
So in this case, for example, the hailstorm is actually hurting the throughput of your agricultural buildings, which kind of makes sense, right? Like it's a heavy hailstorm. But in this case, also a 2.2 intensity is not that bad. This could go higher if this was of higher intensity. And keep in mind, this is in the epicenter. So if I zoom out again, we should be able to see this is the whole area that is actually being affected by this hailstorm. And as you can see from the shading, the effects are the greatest around here, and then they kind of fade off to the outside. Here we can see it's only a 1.1 intensity compared to the 2.14 in the center.
We did actually have a question about the discrimination and about how does it affect simulation and conversion? It does greatly. If we go back here, we can see, for example, here is there's a couple of things with assimilation, and we can see them here. So, for example, in the third bracket, you are in general allowed to assimilate, which is not true for the fifth one. Yeah, exactly. Here, for example, we are not allowed to assimilate anymore. If a pop is in the fifth bracket, then it can't assimilate into the primary culture or any other culture, which actually I should mention is a significant change that we made, because you can now assimilate into any culture that has a higher acceptance value than your own. I believe we actually added the restriction that it has to be of the same heritage. Don't quote me on that, actually. I'm not actually sure it made it in. You've said it already. We have definitely talked about it and wanted to pursue it after we've read the feedback on the dev diary from the players. So exactly. So you can assimilate to any other culture with higher acceptance, not only the primary one. But if you're in the fifth, you can't assimilate. In the third one, you actually get a bonus to assimilation. And then, for example, here we see this bonus appears because basically people in the second bracket are already quite happy with their life situation. There's not as much of a need, basically, to assimilate. That's what we're kind of simulating here, right? You can also see about the voting rights, though, which is also something kind of related.
Yeah.
It's like, depending on how accepted you are, you might get voting or not.
Yes,
and depends also
absolutely.
on your voting law, of course, but...
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we can see it here, gives voting rights. And if you're in here, then you don't have the voting rights. Yeah. They are not appearing here.
And so if you have a movement for a certain culture, you might want to get something that allows them to be more accepted, which then can later affect, or they might be able to vote now, therefore they have more opinions on other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. One could almost think that the systems are all connected somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly what we're trying to do, of course. That we have a lot of like these interesting dynamics, right, between the systems, and that they're connected, and you feel like you're actually turning a little wheel over here, and that has consequences in a whole bunch of other places. So yeah, that is absolutely one of our big goals with this. But yeah, any other questions on discrimination?
There's one related to political movements,
Okay.
which is slightly related through the culture system.
Right.
Well, the cultural political movement.
Mm-hmm.
But if an interest group is supporting a movement, are there ways to get them to stop supporting that one?
I don't think this is actually how it works. I will admit I'm not 100% sure on the details here because I wasn't really involved in the development of this feature. This was really a Martin baby that he worked on for the most part. But I believe it's the other way around exclusively. So a movement will pressure interest groups and therefore basically apply effects to them rather than the other way around. It's not like the trade unions are like, okay, let's support that political movement. I believe that's how it works. Again, I would need to check up on the details myself, actually, if that is true or if there's a way for them to go the other way around as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's maybe go back to the food security, because there's a little bit more to mention. Because, of course, we also changed the famines and how they are basically calculated, if there's a famine ongoing or not. That is basically based on if a POP is able to support their food need, their basic food need. And we can see basic food consisting of these goods, right? Like we can see this all displayed here. So a high supply of basic food is good in order to avoid starvation and famines. And famines is basically defined by a certain number of POPs being
affected
in starvation. Yeah, exactly. Being affected, that's the better way to phrase this. And we can see, for example, here also, right, we can see a nice overview. In the British market, there's 181 million POPs that are fine. And then we have some mild starvation in some areas, and 230,000 people are actually affected by severe starvation in the British market. But that's a fairly small percentage, of course. We changed some things around here, made it a bit more systemic, a bit more easy to follow with the food security panel. So if you really want to do your population good, then you build a lot of farms so that they are prepared for the next harvest condition, which might affect the supply of food. So yeah, that is basically what we did with the food supply. But of course, also we have a bunch of these harvest conditions. We have, I think, 13 in total, if I'm not mistaken.
It's around that number, yeah.
Yeah, we have the positive ones, like the optimal sunlight. I think we also have some pollinators effect.
Yes, that's another positive one.
We have hailstorms, we have wildfires, flooding, droughts. We have a whole bunch of new effects that are really cool to see on the map when they appear. Even though, of course, if they appear in heat wave.
That's actually a good one to look at, I think.
Yeah.
Because it changes the look of the map again. All of them do in some way.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually the heat wave is super visible
at night. At night, probably not. Also, depends on the intensity.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, you should see the world feel a lot more alive.
The wildfire one is quite nice, I think.
Yeah, the wildfire one is quite nice. I'm afraid we don't actually have one right now. We can keep our eyes open.
Keep our eyes open for wildfire.
There's extreme winds here. No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can get back to that. All right, so that was food security. Mm-hmm. Shall we move on to another thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So what we also did was change up companies.
Yes.
So companies can now own buildings, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure there's a lot still to tweak, right? We definitely want to make some more improvements to companies and how they behave and interact with your economy and so on. But basically, you can see that companies will have a headquarter.
Oh, look, there seems to be the East India Company.
Yes, indeed. We're playing as the East India Company, and we have an East India Company building.
I think if you zoom in, you might even be able to see it too.
Yes. I'm not actually exactly sure. Is it exactly here?
I think it highlights it, actually.
Oh, sorry. What?
I think it's highlighted it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that is actually true. I'm not sure that is the actual building. But yeah, you will be able to spot them if you look for them on the map. And most importantly, of course, they have a whole portfolio now, like the financial districts, the manor houses. They have buildings that they own and which will profit the company greatly, from which they, of course, increase their productivity and then unlock the bonuses that they still provide. Whoops, sorry, wrong button, from the prosperity. So these are still in effect. Now it depends on how productive they actually are, their buildings actually are, in order to unlock this. And you enable them pretty much in the same way, but there is some small changes. So when you set up a company, you will now actually need to transfer a number of levels that you own to them.
So in some way, you're actually setting up a company by giving them buildings.
Yes, exactly. And this can change depending on your economic system. If we go into the economic system laws, so for example, where is it here? Establish companies by purchase. So for example, under cooperative ownership, since you can't actually just grant them the buildings, you will need to buy 5 levels, which will then get transferred to them to basically start them up.
Yeah.
And then they will start investing like any other ownership building pretty much. Mm-hmm. There is some rules basically for how they should invest. So they will start out more locally before they start expanding to your whole country. Yeah. And then they can also invest in foreign countries if you have a foreign investment rights agreement, for example.
Or if they're a subject.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you have a subject, we can actually see here we have a opium plantation in Hindustan, which is a subject of ours, for example. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. Yeah.
And they also have preferences for what style of buildings they actually want to go towards. So
yes,
we can see that they want to go towards opium plantations here. But
exactly.
Then another company might, for example, want to go toward steel or iron mines.
Yeah, exactly. So the company buildings can, of course, only invest in the types that they care about. So in the case of the East India Company, it is, like you said, opium plantations more than anything. Basically, at game start, we give them a bunch of opium plantation, and then they will continue investing more. We can see there's one in construction here. But they also could invest in tea plantations or tobacco. And
so
whereas
mostly luxury goods.
Yeah, exactly, like the kind of like the cash crops. Yeah. And then, for example, West Bengal Steel, they only care about the steel mills. So you can actually only establish them if you have 5 steel mills in your country that you could buy them or own yourself to gift them. So there's some more tweaks that we want to do. I know there's a small issue, for example, that we want to address probably in an upcoming hotfix, where there's basically the financial districts will see that a company has established a building, which grants a lot of throughput bonus, and then they will want to leech off that and will basically build a new level on their own that is on that building, so that they can also prosper from that.
The thing is, that sounds kind of like they're just competing with them in some way. But I can see that as some balance.
Kind of, but yeah, exactly. So we'll need to see what we do about this. I think like letting them focus on their own buildings, for example, to just grow their size already would be a good first step, and then we can take this further. It would be cool, of course, if in the long run, right, like in the future, we could actually make them buy out each other's building levels, right? So that they could consolidate, kind of like a swap building levels or something like that. That would be cool. But yeah, this will take a while. But yeah, for now, we're going to make some tweaks to make them feel better. Yeah, I think that's about it for the companies. Do we have any questions on that?
No,
front?
not currently. We could do some like nice little things that we added.
Yes.
Well, little things like, why don't we go down into one of the states?
Yes.
I think maybe we should change its name.
Yeah, I think I know exactly the
name to use too.
The right place, because Bihar has a nice little town called Jamshedpur, and I think it would be nice to just change
make sure everything is
everything into Jamshedpur. because that is the only good name, of course, that should exist.
All hail Jamshedpur.
Whoops. Why can I not see the hub names here? What am I missing?
Did you press enter, or did you just leave them empty?
No, I mean in general, I can't see the hub names here right now. Okay.
It might just be that they don't all come in because it's. You can see that one's come in, but the other one hasn't.
Yeah, no, these are the actually HQ names. So, but yeah.
Must be a different screen.
I'm afraid I'm not sure how I would actually showcase them right now. You can trust us that it works.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, there. Jamshedpur.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So it does work.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
just obviously we're
too bad.
blind.
Too bad.
Oh, it's because you're at war.
Oh yeah.
That's why.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was like, okay,
Wait, why is
what
that
the heck is
we're at
going on
war?
here?
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see here it's called Jamshedpur. The state is called Jamshedpur now.
All of them are Jamshedpur.
Everything is Jamshedpur. So.
Yeah, but this is not just us actually going in and doing them. They can sometimes happen from other things. I don't know, like, what about, what was it called, Edo?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that might turn into Tokyo now.
That might very well be. There's
Istanbul and Constantinople. There's quite a few other ones, but I cannot remember all of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of like cultural changes.
Yes.
So basically, if depending on the culture that you have, places can now change names. So for example, Constantinople, Istanbul, it depends on what culture you have, and then it will automatically apply the correct version. And so events can change this. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do now. Now let's. There we go. Finally. Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't quite notice that we were at war. So yeah, you can see now the hub names have changed as well, not just the state name. So yeah, this is all working in.
It's also got a very nice pivot of empire looking buildings there.
Oh yeah, that is true. We have a whole Indian building set in Pivot of Empire. So if you want to delve deeper into India, you're not only getting narrative content to immerse yourself in, but also get this whole like really lovely looking building set.
Really pretty.
Yeah, it is
really,
super
really pretty.
Like whenever our 3 artists, they posted an update on their work, I fell in love every single time.
Yeah, because they did loads of outfits, they did all these, they did a lot of characters.
Yeah, a bunch of character DNA we also got in. Of course, we also have lovely art assets on the 2D side, right?
Yes.
We have activated the UI skin, as you can see here. If we zoom out, we have this beautiful table skin with the table assets also up here. I really like this.
I love the rose down the bottom.
Oh yeah,
the rose looks so good.
Yeah, where was it? Here.
So pretty.
Exactly. The rose and dagger. I think we call it love letter.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Of course, the paper map around everywhere as well, which has also got lots of nice little illustrations in.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the paper map is a classic. It's the changing it, and we see the different text on it. We see illustrations all across the board, showcasing some of the history of India. So yeah, this is all lovely, really lovely stuff from the art team, as usual.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, there's some other smaller things that we can also talk about. So for example, if we actually go back to our military situation, let me stop that. We have a nice little feature, which is this. As you can see, I just drew a circle, a square. Sorry, I don't know why.
It's a very squared circle.
Yeah, a square around the units, and this will select multiple military formations at once. So right here I have selected 2 armies, and now if we actually had a war, I could send them to a front with right click. Let me just start a war real quick, and then
that feels very we want to start a war to show off a little feature.
Yeah, no, but it's a nice feature. So I definitely want to show it. Whoops.
We need to mobilize first.
Yeah, exactly. Why does this not work? Okay, I'm not sure. There we go.
There you go.
Wait, let me just check just to make sure. Did I click the wrong thing?
I think you might have clicked
Oh
the
yeah,
wrong
I
thing.
probably
That's
clicked the wrong thing. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, you can.
So you can right-click. Like you will obviously not see that I did it, but I right-clicked the icon, the indicator. I probably clicked right next to it, and then the armies will actually go there, which is a nice little quality of life improvement, alongside the multi-select, of course. And there's no stopping there. Obviously, we will certainly continue doing this in the future, bringing small improvements here and there. And of course, we're also going to try to address the big issues that we still have remaining with warfare in general.
Yeah.
So
we definitely know we're going to look at it.
Yeah, it's not like we're not aware of the
Yeah.
issues that are still there, right? The front
I think there's
splitting,
been-
teleporting.
I think there's been some slight improvements on that
Yes,
now, but
yes.
obviously it would depend on where you are in the world. Some of it might be better or worse.
Yeah, exactly. And these are sometimes complex issues that will require a lot of investigation. So we can't develop everything at once, of
Yeah.
course. But we will continue working on this.
But there have been a number of like small and bigger bug fixes done around armies. So there should be some improvement.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. Another thing, I'm not actually sure how easy it is for me to showcase this, but what we can try and look at is the bulk nationalization.
That's true.
A highly requested feature that we now finally got around to doing, because again, this was also a bit more extensive than it may look to get this working. But basically what this does, I press the nationalize filtered buildings here. I can filter down this list. For example, if I only filter by full cash reserves and
who owns it, what,
no input shortage.
Yeah.
Exactly. I can look for for example, only in my country, who owns it. Let's go with privately owned buildings, and then basically depending on how you filtered this, you can go as
much
low
deeper.
or deep as you want. And then you press the button and then this will update. Right now it's 107, before it was 167. And then you can see all the levels here. And then I can use the slider to determine how many buildings I want to nationalize. And you get the summary basically over here. Right now, of course, I would have to spend quite a lot of money here with 4.3 billion. I'm not sure I want to do that. And of course, I would also make a lot of pops quite angry. So I'm going to hold off on that. But this is how you do it.
Yeah. I believe you can even click that square button there to go into even more depth and go, I want to go and have everything from companies or anything from just all the manor houses, because I don't like the manor house people.
That is a very good point, exactly. You can use this to filter down basically these from the selection of everything that you filtered for. You can basically go in deeper one layer and then say, okay, let's look at the actual owners of these in order to really make the aristocrats mad, for example.
Yeah.
Which is,
that sounds good.
It's the most fun
the
that
best
you can
way
have.
to do.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the bulk nationalization tool that we now release with 1.8. Of course, this is also a free update part, and it's coming to everybody, even if you don't purchase the DLC. Yeah, so that should be pretty. We're looking, of course, I can say at this point, we're looking at if we want to do the opposite with the privatization as well. But we felt this was a lot more important as it was a lot more requested, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Any questions on that topic maybe, or the other topics that we've discussed? No. All right.
We could go a bit more into actually what's coming with Pivot of Empire.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we've got the nice unstable rise. Well, maybe nice is probably not a good description there.
Yes. No, we have a bunch of journal entries and events around various topics. And of course, they are mostly with direct connection to countries in India. So for example, the unstable Raj it's basically you need to keep a higher stability, or otherwise you will basically break apart. You can get some really nice India explosions now.
Yeah.
That look really pretty, with like 30 little countries breaking free and becoming independent, which is arguably the most fun India can look like. But you can also, if you're doing a good job here and in general with the number of subjects that you have, then you can also unify India, of course, under your rule, and maybe break free from Great Britain. There's a lot of narrative content to basically get you into that direction.
You can also have that with, say, a different path would be Hyderabad, for instance, where you can try and like regain your old power, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of content